Okay. This is the very first recording of a new podcast, videocast, Tales from the Cassette. So I'm Jeff Beach.
Joseph Graves.
And today's topic is going to be a ranking of our favorite Kiss albums. Top 10 or top 5, right? Top five, and then some of our least favorites, and then some maybe honorable mentions.
Yes.
So we're going to do this today. It's not going to be all Kiss all the time, but you'll notice probably through our podcast that is our favorite band, and you'll probably see them again. But we'll be doing a lot about other bands as well, just generally the music industry. So Joey, Joseph, and I, whatever it is, I'm used to Joey. We met in second grade, right?
Second grade.
It's
Mefford's class.
Yes. So, and I think he's probably the person I've talked to the most about music my entire life, from younger days all the way into high school, and we went to college together, and we talked about music all the time. And I can just remember hours and hours of conversations about various bands, new bands, old bands, what we liked and what we didn't like.
As we grew older, we had differing opinions on bands.
Very, very differing opinions.
But the one thing kind of we agreed upon was Kiss.
Yes, we liked Kiss, and that was sort of the backbone of the music conversations. And so, in fact, I think you introduced me to Kiss. So I can remember... I can remember being in your basement and listening to things, but I think the first recollection I have of you sharing Kiss music with me was Lick It Up. So that was later. There's probably before, because I know you listened to them before. But that was the one I can remember. And then I also remember from there borrowing your Dynasty 8-track. I don't know that I ever gave it back.
That's probably what allowed him to
They might have it. I don't have it anymore. I did go looking for various CDs and albums and tapes that we might have, but I didn't have them.
I've probably have had every album in one form or another, be it album, 8-track, cassette, or CD, since my first album that was given to me was Love Gun back in 77, 78. That's when I was introduced to Kiss. My parents got a Love Gun album for me for my birthday. So on a cassette, actually. I still have that 1977 cassette, the original.
So how did you get introduced to Kiss?
Well, I have to say my introduction to Kiss was through another mutual friend of ours, Brad. He was a year older than us, so he had more life experience.
Yeah.
And and he had been exposed to Kiss, I don't know how or when, but whenever I'd go over and visit with Brad, we would listen to Kiss. And so that was my introduction.
Yeah, so I gave you mine, and since then, I kind of grew up on the '80s version of Kiss. That was my first intro, and I knew about the '70s version and the makeup, but that wasn't what I listened to in the beginning. So my introduction to Kiss and what I loved listening to in the beginning, really for the most part, even though I knew the older albums were out there, was the '80s version, starting with Lick It Up and then moving on to Animalize and Asylum, and it wasn't until probably a lot later, like college years, that I started going back and listening to the old. I mean, it always showed up on the greatest hits and the Alive albums and Alive 3, but I didn't really go back and listen to the albums until much later.
Well, when we get to our albums, how we rank them, we'll see how that 80s Kiss and this versus the 70s Kiss, how they are ranked in our respective lists.
Yeah, it surprised me as I was putting it together and I was ranking my favorite albums. Now, having listened to them all and can really talk about any of them at any time, what those rankings look like. The other thing, and we can talk about how many times have you seen them in concert?
18 times.
18 times. Okay, I don't keep track, unfortunately. I believe I'm in the teens. Most of that was later, so I didn't see him. My first concert, I believe. I don't know. Did we see Animalize?
Oh, we did.
Okay, so that was my first
At the Louisville Convention Center in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. Actually, the UK and U of L, University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, were playing in Freedom Hall. So they had to have the KISS concert at the convention center.
Okay.
And actually, they filmed Thrills of the Night video earlier in that day.
Okay.
At
all right.
Louisville Convention Center.
At the convention center. Okay. So I know I saw that one, and then I think I saw every show out from there through college into Likely Revenge, and then I saw the reunion tour, and then I've seen them multiple times over the years in their current or in their last current lineup. And then my favorite show was actually one of the more recent ones, and that we saw them together in Fort Wayne right before COVID hit. And they were doing, they didn't call it Into the Road tour, I don't think, did they?
Yes, that was it. It was In the Road.
Yeah. So even though they came back and went on for another couple of years, we saw that one, and that was by far my favorite show I've ever seen.
That was great. That was a great show. But I will also say that my first show was when I was 9 years old, the Dynasty tour, and probably my last KISS show ever was I was able to take at the time he was 10 to his last KISS show. Or his first, I guess, and last
first and last
KISS show. So I got to experience that with my son. So that was pretty special. But absolutely the best time I've ever had at a KISS concert, and I've been to a lot of them, was the one in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, that was blast. And I think it was for the fact that we were 20 rows from the stage, but they just seemed to be on that night and engaged with the audience. And you can just tell sometimes with bands. Now, I did see them after that. Later near the very end of the tour in that summer, and our friend Brad that you mentioned, he went with me to that show, and it was a great show as well. And they changed it up a little bit, but that's still that first one that we saw in Fort Wayne was still my favorite one. And then I've seen them outside with the tour a couple times, and so yeah, all good shows. So before we get into our list of our favorite top 5, maybe we'll talk about the albums we don't like.
So let me scroll down here. Since you threw me a curveball.
I know. Let's start at the bottom. And it doesn't have to be 5, but let's talk about maybe your least favorite albums, the ones that the ones you don't want to hear played.
Now, you said no solo albums.
Yeah, we did. Well, and I went back and added some solo ones.
Okay.
Because you had told me solo.
Okay.
And I think we'll both agree on one of the songs.
I believe our bottom 4 will be similar.
Okay. So bottom is probably, what's your bottom?
Peter Criss solo album.
Okay. Peter Criss is on the bottom of mine as well. Peter Criss is on the bottom.
Okay.
So it's just, it's interesting listening to other reviews of that album. It's just a different kind of album. And if you like more of a soul type album, I mean, it can be fine, but it's just not a KISS album.
It's not a KISS album.
It's not a KISS album.
Not a KISS album.
It's just not, it's not anything you would expect from that. So, all right, we'll move on from that. What's your other one? What's your next one?
This is going to surprise you. Crazy Nights.
That is my next one on the list. Yeah.
And we have not looked at each other's list.
We've not seen each other's list.
Nope.
And so, yeah, Crazy Nights. I just don't like that album. I love the song Crazy Nights. I think it's a great song. I don't like anything else on that album. I think it's all very forgettable. I am not a fan of that. I tried to listen to that as we were putting our list together. I don't find much on there that's
I can't do it. attempted to, and I can't get past Crazy Nights.
No. Yeah, exactly. I can't get back to Crazy Nights.
I'll Fight Hell to Hold You is pretty good. I will say that, but the rest of it is.
Yeah, it's all very. It's funny. I can remember when that was out, and of course it was keyboards introduced on that album, and other friends that were big fans over the time, and we talk about the album, and at the time I liked it. I mean, it's showing up on MTV, and it's I thought it was a good listen, and then now listening back and listening to some of these albums, quite a bit later than high school and college, it's not good.
Right.
It's not good. All right. We'll talk about let's just have we'll do our bottom five.
Okay.
We'll do that.
All right.
What's next on your five?
Gene Simmons solo album.
That is in my bottom five. It's not next, but it's in.
That's how I knew there was bottom five.
Yeah,
It'd be similar.
Yeah, that one. That one's weird as well. There's some good songs on there, and I think Radioactive is a great song.
Radioactive, Living in Sin is cool.
That's a good song.
But it's just not consistent.
Right. And he was just sampling. It looked like almost he just took a bunch of demos and put them together, and there was his album.
When I did these rankings on what albums do I want to put in, what albums can I put in a CD player or whatever, cassette player, or an album, and listen to it from beginning to end and enjoy it.
Yes.
And I cannot do any of these bottom five.
It's interesting
from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's interesting when you listen to his solo album, and he's got, now that they've got all the demos, and they'll release those every now and then on their box sets or on a special release.
Vault.
Yeah, the Vault. He's got a bunch of old demos that are really good, which makes you wonder what was going on that solo album, because some of those could have appeared on that album, because there's some great demos from the Destroyer era and some of those other earlier albums that he did not use.
Well, I believe that, of course, Peter Criss probably had drug issues at the time that may have been part of his decision making, but Gene Simmons, during the solo albums, I think his ego was starting to get the best of him.
Yeah, you might be right. He does have an ego.
Yes. So he thought he could do no wrong, and I think he did a lot of wrong on that album. So.
All right. So my next one on the list was Carnival of Souls.
My next one on the list is Carnival of Souls.
Yeah, that one, it is just, and I'm sure in future podcasts we'll talk about various other types of music, but there's a whole stretch there from the very late 80s and through the 90s of that type of music, which they classify as grunge and some of that I never got into.
I never got into it either.
I think during that time, of course, we were in college, and I think during that time I was just listening to old CDs, and I never listened to the radio. If I was listening to the classic rock, which is different than the classic rock they play today. And I never got in. And that whole Carnival of Souls is a grunge album.
Well, I will say that Carnival of Souls does have one of my top 10 favorite Kiss songs of all time.
What's that?
Master and Slave.
That's a good song.
That is a kick-ass song.
Yeah, that's
Paul Stanley sings that like no other. That is a great song.
Yeah.
The rest of it,
Yeah, it's all. Not huge. Carnival of Souls was next. So we've got Gene Simmons. So we only have one more. So what's the one other one in the bottom five that we haven't talked about?
See if we match again.
Yep.
I have Animalize.
Oh, my Animalize is up the list a little bit, and I was probably a little unfair to this one, because as I was putting it on there, I just didn't know where to put it because I don't listen to it enough, and so this one moved around. But the one I put in my bottom five was Monster.
I like Monster.
So, Animalize, I get it. That one I had moved all over the place. I mean, I think that one's got some great songs on it. I mean, Heaven's on Fire is one of their best songs of all time.
And this is a case where it's an occasional good song. Like I've Had Enough. I even like Lonely as the Hunter, Heaven's on Fire.
Yep.
The rest of it, I can do without.
Yeah, so I think there's a great that having that song on there turns the turns the ranking up on it. But there's a lot of not good stuff on there. Now tell me, so I had Monster in there, and I told you why I'm not sure that I like it a lot. Why do you like Monster?
I don't know. I think it's consistently good. It's consistent, and that's what I'm looking for in an album ranking is consistency. And I think, it may be out of 1 out of 10, every song may be a 7, but they're all 7s.
Mm-hmm.
There is not like a 7 and a 3 and a 9 and a 2, and they're all consistently good. My Monster,
Is your Monster in top 5?
no,
Okay.
it is not in the top 5. It's somewhere in the middle, but it's not.
It's not at the bottom.
Not at the bottom.
That was the one that I looked at, and I was thinking that it was probably not fair because I don't listen to that one enough.
Well, I don't really care for Animalize just because a lot of it is Mark St. John. I think he was just the wrong person in the wrong band.
Yeah, I like that album. I actually just listened to that album this week in prep for this just to see where I wanted to put it, and I was having some trouble with some of the other ones and ranking it, and yeah, I did listen to that, and there's some decent songs on there. Of course, you got Heavens and Pirates, great song.
Well, you got these, what made Ace Frehley, Bruce Kulick, even Vinnie Vincent, and Tommy Thayer even, so good is that you could hum along with some of their lift solos.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do that
No,
on Animalized.
that's why he only lasted one out.
Well, yeah.
That's why he only lasted one out. Okay.
They never should have gotten rid of Vinnie Vincent, in my opinion.
No.
Go ahead.
No. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I'm sure that the Vinnie Vincent related albums are going to show up somewhere on our top 5. But let's talk about honorable mention. What did not end up in the top 5, but you struggled with where to, if it would end up in top 5. Like I actually took a couple out of my top 5 as I redid my list. So who's just outside?
I did too.
Okay. Who's outside?
How far are we going down?
I would just do like 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there.
All right. 8. Hotter Than Hell.
That's my 8. Yeah. And I tell you, Hotter Than Hell is moving up my list over the years.
As I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate Hotter Than Hell more. Actually, I had it in my top 5, and I was debating whether to put it in my top 5. So.
Yeah, I agree. I had it in my top 5, just on the edge, and I was moving it around. And I love Hotter Than Hell. I think that the production value on that album was better, like Destroyer better, or even Love Gun better. That I would even like it more.
And I think Hotter Than Hell, the production is kind of
fits them.
It fits the time. It fits the attitude of the songs. I think it's what draws me to that album.
Yeah,
it's some of the production value or lack of production value.
Yeah, it is it's an interesting album because not only is the production value a little different, and the album itself looks like it was put together with a cut and paste method on the outside. The album cover is very strange, but the songs on there are great.
Yep,
songs that you can hear today. Firehouse is a great song. The
Firehouse is not on Hotter Than Hell.
Oh, it's not.
No.
Oh, I just blew that. All right, give me a song then. Give me a song. I was going off the top of my head.
I Got to Choose All the Way. Coming Home. Not Coming Home. That's on That is Coming Home is on.
Coming Home's on the first one.
Yeah. Kiss. Got to Choose All the Way. Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Going Blind. Mainline. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, to be fair with the albums, it is difficult sometimes to remember because those first 3 albums are so close together.
Boom, boom, boom.
And they came out. I made notes on it in that it was that way all the way up. But the first 3 albums were like boom, 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 and then they did Alive, and then the next albums were all like that, boom, boom, boom in a row. But yeah, I do like Hotter Hell. Okay, so what's your number 7?
Kiss.
Oh.
Kiss.
Okay.
First one,
I like Kiss. I like Kiss a lot. So we'll probably talk about Kiss a little bit later.
Firehouse,
Uh-huh.
Black Diamond. Those are those are the they're staples in the Kiss set list, and it goes back to even Firehouse. You can hum along to it. It's just the chords.
There's Firehouse.
It is great. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, even songs that they don't play all the time, 100,000 Years, Nothing to Lose, which they did in Unplugged. Those are all songs. This album has moved up on me through the years because I think it's an album, like you said, you can put on and just play. Every song on it is good.
Yep.
Every song. It's most of these are concert staples. It's funny that when you go back and you read about this album, I'll tell you, this one's in my top 5. So
Okay.
when you read about this album, it's just how much of it was already written before they really became Kiss. So, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons brought a lot of these songs in from their Wicked Lester days. And
they say
these songs were written.
they say you have a lifetime to write your first album,
Mm-hmm.
but 3 months to write your next.
Right. And that's true in this case.
So
yeah, that was true in this case. I think this is a great album. And for an intro or a debut album, it's amazing. Especially back in 1973, they're putting this thing together. It's a impressive album to put together. All right, so my number 7 is Sonic Boom. I love that album, even it's new. I listen to that album, and it reminds me of listening to Love Gun. It reminds me of listening to Hotter Than Hell. I think a lot of that music on Sonic Boom has that quality to it. And I actually have this one today, CD, Sonic Boom. I think, I'm not a huge fan of Modern Day Delilah, but I think Never Enough.
Bad choice for a first single.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think the rest of the album is better than that. I think Yes, I Know, Nobody's Perfect, Stand, Hot and Cold, All for the Glory. I think a lot of these songs, and then of course they still play Say Yeah in concert, which I'm not so sure why, but they do. But I love this album. I think it is like a perfect Kiss album. I think if you listen to the 70s and you threw this on, and somebody was like listening in order, and you threw this somewhere in like 77 in order, they wouldn't know that it was a new album.
I enjoy Sonic Boom. However, I cannot stand the song Stand. I can't stand it. I don't like it.
They sing together.
And that's cool. That's cool that they're singing together, but it's too cliche.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, holding each other up and for better together and all it just does not. And there's also a song on Psycho Circus that I think it's Psycho Circus. You have that?
I have that one too.
Let me see it.
Psycho Circus is right here. That album's okay. That one was near the bottom.
We Are One.
Yeah. That was near the bottom.
It's like, I can't stand that song. I understand, everybody love each other.
Yeah.
And we're better together and stand by your friends and family and all that stuff, but too cliche for me.
All right. One more, 6.
Paul Stanley solo album.
That's good. Yeah, I put that just outside the top 10, but I think it's a great album. I think it's a great rock album. It's just it's definitely not a Kiss album because it's missing so many features from the others.
Yeah, but it's consistently good.
You can listen to it
from beginning to end.
Yeah, my number 6 is probably in your top 5, and I struggle with this one, and that's Creatures of the Night.
Creatures of the Night is not in my top 5.
It's not. Okay,
no.
All right. I like that.
It's my top 10, but it's not.
I like that album a lot. I mean, it is a great hard rock album.
Too short, only 9 songs.
Too short, only 9 songs. But it is a if somebody wants to listen to Kiss and they think they're not hard rock enough, that's the one you put.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great album.
It's a great album.
Great album. I love Creatures of the Night.
I think I've got the one with them. That's there was another album cover. I think I had that album cover at one time on cassette.
What, Bruce Kulick and Unmasked and then no makeup on it.
Yeah, I think I had that one. Okay, let's do our top 5.
All right.
All right.
Ready.
You want to go first?
My number 5 is Lick It Up.
Lick It Up. Nice. I love Lick It Up. Lick It Up isn't in my top 5 as well.
Vinny, with all his issues, obviously has some mental issues, and surrounding himself with bad people or something. I don't know what his problem is, but the songwriting of Vinnie Vincent cannot be denied. Even when he went on to have Vinnie Vincent Invasion, those albums, some of the lyrics and some of the licks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
So Lick It Up is number 5 for me.
I told you this was my intro to Kiss. So this is what I first started listening to. And I can remember just like putting Lick It Up and All Hell's Breaking Loose and A Million to One and On the Eighth Day, just playing that to death.
Yep.
And I had an album, so I remember that's how I would play it. Exciter's great. It's funny reading the notes on this and how, while you had Vinnie Vincent there, and guitarist, how he didn't play the solo or didn't play guitar on Exciter. Derringer played it there. But I think this is in my top 5. I had this one that we'll get there in a minute. But,
okay.
My number 5 was Destroyer, and I had a hard time with this one because I think Destroyer gets so worn out from its play, and I think one of their best songs of all time is Detroit Rock City. Love that song. It's probably one of my favorite older Kiss songs. But I originally started this, and it was further down the list. And as I kept making the list and looking at them and reading them about and listening to them, this one kept moving up. And finally, it shuffled with Creatures of the Night and ended up in my top 5. Beth is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of that song, but the other songs on that album, I think Flaming Youth, Sweet Pain, they make up for it. So I had to move this up the list higher than I originally had it. Do You Love Me is a great song that doesn't get any play.
Destroyer is number 12 on my list. And it's because of probably something you said earlier, is that I've heard the song so many freaking times that I don't ever go to that album and play it from beginning to end.
I was reading a review of it as I was putting this together, and somebody else in whatever review I said the same thing, and it's that it just gets played a lot. And so it's one of those that you feel like, it just gets maybe overplayed. But it is a great album.
Great album.
Great album.
King of the Nighttime World is one of my all-time favorite Kiss songs. Yep. Flaming Youth. But again, it's just, I've heard the songs over and over again.
Got Us Under.
Got a great song.
Staple for their concerts. Yeah. Okay. Number 4.
I cheated a little bit. Number 4 on my list is Unplugged.
Oh, that is a cheat. That is a cheat.
But it's some of the songs on there, they twisted them just enough to make them unique, bring new life to them.
Mm-hmm.
Sure Know Something, Nothing to Lose.
It is. Yeah.
I like that album. Again, it goes back to consistency. It's from beginning to end. It's hummable. It's singable.
They did a great job.
So
I mean that is
why I did cheat a little bit.
That is a good cheat. It's funny. I was struggling where to put Dynasty. Part of the reason I was struggling with Dynasty is because I like Sure Know Something so well. I think it is a great song. I would have, if we were doing the live albums, I would have put that high up there. Yeah. In fact, it's funny. I listened to a different podcast today, and they were like, well, the best Kiss albums that are out there are Alive and Alive 2. And if they were doing more live albums, I would say it'd be Alive 2, Alive, and then Unplugged, and then the studio. Well, my number 4 is Love Gun. I think that is a great album. That one I definitely wanted in my top 5. Got that one here today. I Stole Your Love, Christine 16. I think, like you said, put this on, play it, Shock Me. I think that was Ace Frehley's first singing part. I mean, he wrote songs that Gene or Paul would sing. Hooligan, I think that's a great Peter Criss song.
Great Peter Criss song. Enjoy it.
Plaster Caster. Almost Human is a great Gene song.
Yep.
They could do that in concert when he does his blood thing.
I think they've done it on the cruise.
That is one of my. That's my number 4.
It's a good, and it was my introduction to Kiss. Was the Kiss Love Gun.
Okay, is Love Gun in your top 5?
Love Gun is not in my top 5.
Okay, all right. Let's go number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah, we did 4. Okay, let's do 3.
Number 3. Revenge.
Okay, I figured that might show up for you in there somewhere. Revenge is in my top 10.
Revenge is, it goes, again, I love Unholy. I like Unholy more than I like God of Thunder. And again, it's a Vinnie Vincent penned song with Gene. But Unholy is fantastic. And then I had a friend of mine tell me that they used to play Take It Off in strip bars. I don't know anything about it personally. Okay.
That might be true.
But Unholy and Take It Off.
Domino.
I mean, just.
There's some songs on there that aren't great. And that's when I was trying to, you're talking about playable. There's a couple songs. I read a review of this and someone was talking about how much they like Spit. And I'm like,
I like Spit.
But they got the Heart of Chrome. There are some good songs on there. There's just songs that I can't listen to.
Again, the only thing I do not like on Unholy or on Revenge is the bridge of
I Just
Wanna.
Yeah.
And that's even Vinnie Vincent.
Yeah. That sounds
but
like
that bridge, I cannot stand that bridge. I don't know why they did that, but take that out. Great song.
I Just Wanna on the Live 3 is great.
Yeah, so
is great.
Live. I think it works live.
Yeah, it works live. Okay. So that was your number 3?
Yep.
Mine's Lick It Up. We talked about Lick It Up.
Mm-hmm.
Love that album. Intro. That's a great music video where they're walking down the street and that's when they took their makeup off on MTV and then it pops up and that's an awesome. That song, if it comes on the radio, I tell the kids we have to listen to it. It's a requirement. All right. Your number 2.
Number 2. Going old school, Rock and Roll Over.
Oh, I love Rock and Roll Over. We're going old school. Platt with the album today. Yes, love Rock and Roll Over. Since you brought it up, this is my number 1.
My number 2.
My number 1. I love this album. This entire album is great.
Absolutely, every song,
every single song.
Even the Peter Criss song.
Yeah.
I can listen.
Hard Luck Woman. Yeah. That's a great song. Making Love, Take Me, I Want You, Calling Dr. Love, Baby Driver is an awesome song. Ladies Room, every song on this is good. You can just put this on and play it over and over. I loved when I saw them in the final months of their tour. They added Making Love back to their set list. It was great. And I've got a picture of Gene on stage, and they've got this design and in the on the screen, and love this. And of course they had this on the floor of Unplugged. Yep. This is a great album. That's why I was money.
Let me see. Is this the original or is this like one of the covers?
I found it in a used record store.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Good album. So this is your number 2. My number 2 is Kiss. Yeah. I think, and we talked about that, I think that it's just perfect debut album. Another one you can just put on. Great introduction to Kiss. It's funny when people that aren't Kiss fans and maybe they're turned off by the music. Maybe they think it's just, too heavy metal for them. I tell them to listen to some of those early albums because I'm like, they are Beatle-like.
Yeah.
But harder. Yeah. Their harmonies, the way they sung. If you listen to Something Off Dress to Kill, those songs, those sound like Beatles songs if they were rock songs.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Now, my favorite is going back to Rock and Roll Over. I think I love Ladies Room,
Oh yes.
and it wonderful on live too. The live version of Ladies Room is fantastic.
I was shocked. I mean, this album gets lost in the shuffle, and it's interesting reading about this because back in the day when, of course, there's no internet, you had to keep track of when there were releases. It was hard to know that this album was out there because they did. This one was in November of '76. Destroyer was in March, earlier in the year.
Wow.
Love Gun came out in June the next year, and then they did Alive 2 in October.
Wow.
So this one just got buried in the middle as they were churning out albums. And so this one, I think, and it didn't really have any radio type songs at the time. Now they play some of these in concert, obviously, Calling Dr. Love, but and that was just got buried, I think. And so I think a lot of people didn't realize it was there or when it came out. And I think it is just I'll say it's like a hidden gem of their collection. And it was just for the reason it came out after Destroyer, which was so huge. I mean, Beth, what did I see? Beth hit number 7. It peaked in September. And then this album came out in November.
Wow.
So I just don't think it ever got its due. And it is my favorite.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's a great album.
What was your hardest one to rank?
Hardest one to rank. And we see the list. With age, if you talked to me 10 years ago, this list would probably be different.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've gone back and rediscovered these albums and taken my time to listen to the intricacies of the chord changes or the harmonies, things have grown on me. I would have said maybe Creatures of the Night. I was going back and forth of whether to rank it higher, but it ended up number 9 for me.
Yeah, mine was Dressed to Kill, and I like that album a lot, and I think I've got it here somewhere. And yeah, I like Dressed to Kill, and so that one moved down the list a little bit as I was realizing I wanted to make sure Creatures was in there and Revenge was in there, and so I had to move some out of the way.
Come On Love Me is on Dressed to Kill.
Yes. That was the one I was thinking. So that was a hard one, and I like that album. I listened to that album a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's a good album.
Yep.
So that's our top 5. Plus,
we haven't done number 1.
Oh, we didn't do number 1. Okay.
Well, you did your one.
Oh, I did one. All right, you have to do your one. Do your one.
It's going to surprise a lot of people.
Okay. Don't give me another live album.
I freaking love Asylum.
Wow, that is a shock.
Asylum is my number 1 Kiss album. Every song, every freaking song, I love it. It's probably one of their harder 80s albums, and Bruce Kulick does a fantastic job on this album. Who Wants to Be Lonely, Tears Are Falling, of course.
All Night.
I was a horny 15-year-old when it came out. So All Night, and it's just a good album.
Yeah.
And I think everybody, Eric Carr, Bruce Kulick, I think they were all, of course, Paul Stanley was writing some great songs with what's his name? The guy with the mohawk.
Gene.
Yeah, Gene Beauvoir.
Yes. Yeah.
And that great album. That's my number 1.
I struggle.
And has been for years.
I struggled with that one a little bit. It's just outside my top 10. It fell further when I put Paul and Ace's solo albums on, and I thought were a little bit better. But it's right behind Dressed to Kill on the studio albums for me. I thought it was probably of that new non-makeup era, outside of Lick It Up. It's probably their best one. I do like that. I pull songs off of that one. I don't like to listen to the whole thing. So
anytime I can listen to getting.
yeah, I do remember us driving to get that one, having to go to Terrapin Station in Indiana and pick up Animalize, and to go over and get Asylum on the day it was released on a Tuesday when they used to do albums.
Every Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, and then have to go, and then we pop it in the car and then listen to it on the way back. Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
I enjoyed it. And still do. It's played all the time.
Well, that is a good list. And a little bit surprised. Asylum is probably the one that's totally different. But all right, so that is our Kiss rankings, our first podcast. We're going to try other music ideas. This will be any sort of music, any sort of topic. We have Joey and I have some great bands in common that we like a lot, and then there's probably a lot of bands that we listen to that we don't. And so we'll come up with some topics for future. We could even do some new album releases, new music.
I'm stuck in the 80s, Jeff.
I have started listening to some new stuff. I like the Struts a lot. I have been listening to Foo Fighters. I'm not a huge Foo Fighters fan from the older, but their new albums, their last two albums, Medicine at Midnight, and then their last one, I can't think of the name of it. Both great albums.
I am so trying to get into Foo Fighters. I cannot get over the screaming.
No.
If Dave Grohl would cut down on the screaming.
Right. I'm going to recommend Medicine at Midnight to you.
I will listen to it.
Medicine at Midnight.
Probably have already listened to it, but it will change. It didn't grab me.
It's another review I read is like it was Foo Fighters doing a David Bowie album.
Okay. I'll give it a listen.
Off here. Thanks for joining today.
See ya.